At 68, Margaret had spent her entire life in motion. She'd been the one who always arrived early, who volunteered for extra shifts, who made the family gatherings happen, who ironed every shirt, swept every corner, and never sat still long enough to finish a cup of tea while it was still hot. That was how she believed life was supposed to be lived, through constant action. Productivity was her currency, and rest was something you earned only after the work was done, which meant, in her mind, never. So when her daughter, Lila, emailed her a health article titled Doctors Reveal, Being Lazy Might Help You Live Longer, 8 Relaxing Habits to Embrace, Margaret nearly deleted it on sight. The headline made her snort. Lazy people lived longer? Surely it was written by the same kind of folks who wore pajamas to the grocery store. But curiosity got the better of her. That evening, after finishing the laundry and running the dishwasher, she sat at her kitchen table and read it. The article cited doctors and studies, each making the same case. The human body, especially as it aged, needed more deliberate rest. Chronic busyness kept stress hormones high, wore down the immune system, and shortened life expectancy. It listed 8 habits: napping, slow walks, deep breathing, lingering over meals, saying no more often, gentle stretching, unstructured creative hobbies, and doing absolutely nothing for short periods each day. Margaret read it twice, skeptical but unsettled. She thought about the heart scare she'd had last spring, the one she'd brushed off because there was too much to do. She thought about how she hadn't sat in the sun without a task in her hands in years. The next morning, she decided, just for the experiment's sake, to try one of the habits. She started with lingering over breakfast. Instead of eating standing at the counter, she set the table, made tea, and took her time with toast and jam. It felt wrong at first, almost indulgent. She kept glancing at the clock, aware of the laundry waiting in the basket, the phone messages unchecked, but she forced herself to sit, sip, and notice the steam curling from her cup. When she finally rose from the table, she felt lighter. Not euphoric, but steady. The next day, she tried gentle stretching before bed. It wasn't much, just a few minutes of reaching, bending, twisting, but her shoulders felt looser afterward. That night, she slept through without waking, something she hadn't done in weeks. By the third day, she decided to attempt doing absolutely nothing for 10 minutes. She sat in her armchair, hands folded in her lap, staring out the window at the swaying branches. At first, her mind swirled with lists. She thought of dust on the bookshelf, of groceries to buy, of a letter she meant to write. But gradually, her thoughts slowed. She began to notice the way the light shifted across the living room carpet, the fluttering shadows of leaves, the faint hum of traffic in the distance. When the 10 minutes were up, she felt strangely refreshed, as though someone had quietly rearranged the clutter in her mind. She didn't tell anyone what she was doing at first. Old habits die hard, and admitting she was being lazy went against every story she'd told herself about her worth. But as the weeks passed, she noticed changes. Her heart rate felt steadier. The tension in her jaw eased. Even her appetite returned, stronger and steadier. One Saturday, Lila visited and found her mother sitting in the garden, eyes closed, face tilted toward the sun. "Are you okay?" Lila asked, almost alarmed. Margaret smiled without opening her eyes. "Perfectly fine. I'm doing nothing." Lila laughed. "That's new." "It's doctor approved," Margaret replied. She began adding the other habits slowly. She took slow walks in the morning without timing herself or counting steps. She napped after lunch when her body asked for it. She let herself paint in the afternoons without worrying whether the result was good enough. She declined an invitation to help organize a community event, telling herself, and meaning it, that it was okay to say no. Not every day was blissful. Sometimes she felt guilty, as though she were wasting time she could be using to clean or call someone or fix something. But the more she leaned into the so-called laziness, the more she realized the work always got done anyway. Only now, it didn't leave her drained. By midsummer, she noticed something remarkable. Her conversations with friends were richer. She was no longer half distracted by mental lists during phone calls. When her neighbor invited her for tea, she sat with her, unhurried, listening to every word. She had time, not because the days were longer, but because she'd stopped filling every corner with busyness. One evening, she walked with Lila along the lake, the sky streaked with pink and gold. "You seem different," Lila said. "How so?" calmer, happier. I don't think I've ever seen you walk this slowly in my life. Margaret chuckled. Apparently, slow walking is one of the secrets to longevity. And here I thought you'd outlive us all by sheer willpower. Turns out sheer willpower is exhausting. That night, Margaret thought about the word lazy. All her life, it had been an insult, a warning, a label to avoid at all costs. But maybe it was just a misunderstood word, like a plant misnamed as a weed. Maybe lazy was what happened when you gave your body the space to heal itself, when you stopped proving your worth through constant movement. In September, at her annual checkup, her doctor noted her lower blood pressure, steadier heart rate, and improved sleep patterns. "What have you been doing differently?" the doctor asked. Margaret hesitated for a moment, then smiled. "I've been a little lazy." The doctor laughed. "Good, keep it up." By autumn, the habits had woven themselves into her life so fully that she didn't think of them as an experiment anymore. The morning tea ritual was as natural as breathing. The slow walks had become her way of watching the seasons change. The moments of nothingness were her favorite part of the day. One crisp November afternoon, Margaret sat in her garden again, leaves scattering across the grass. She closed her eyes, listening to the wind, the rustle of branches, the distant sound of children laughing. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she could hear the voice of her younger self, impatient, restless, certain that stillness was a waste. She let that voice fade, replaced by the steady rhythm of her own breathing. She wasn't racing anyone anymore, not even herself. And if the doctors were right, this quiet, deliberate laziness might just be the thing that gave her more time to enjoy the life she had. When the wind picked up, scattering leaves across her lap, she didn't rush to brush them away. She just let them rest there, light as the minutes passing, the sun still warm on her face.